One of the earliest types of VR games was the throw a bunch of stuff game.
Really, that is something that I'm not that familiar with, I'll admit that. Probably because, as you said, it was one of the earlier forms of a VR game, and at that point I wasn't following the development of VR as much. Why is there a new game about throwing things?
When VR first started, everybody just kind of wanted to pick stuff up and hold them in your hands. I'm sure you did that when you first got your VR headset. You just picked stuff up and looked at it and threw it around.
No, that's true. I still do that sometimes. I walk around and, out of curiosity's sake, that's one of the things I do in a VR game is say, hey, can I pick this up? Just out of curiosity, I want to see if I can.
This is the logical extension of that kind of play style. This is a game called Throw Anything. Hey guys, this is Moriarty.
And this is Brax.
And Throw Anything is a game where you can throw anything. The whole point is to stop zombies from coming into a window.
Can you even throw the kitchen sink?
You can throw everything, even other people.
Ooh, that sounds fun. It's always fun to throw other people in Human Fall Flat, right?
No, that's a troll thing to do. This game is really interesting for that purpose, in that you can basically pick up anything, even a desk. You can break the desk into smaller pieces, you can break beds, you can throw people, you can throw beds, you can throw anything you want out the window.
The reason for throwing things out of the window, I guess, is to keep the monsters at bay. Like, they are trying to scale the wall and get up there and attack you, so you have to keep them from getting you. Is that correct?
You've got the whole plot right there.
Okay.
That's the whole plot. That's the whole point of this game, is to throw whatever you want out the window and knock people off the walls as they try to climb up and kill you.
I guess it would probably get harder to do so the longer that you play like it, but I'm curious, are there levels to this game, or is it one of those kind of horde-based things where you play one level, but it just gets progressively more hard and you try to see how long you can last before you die? Which one is it?
The level itself gets harder because you start having more zombies and you start having slightly faster zombies, and there are different levels where you might have different gear. So the point is really iteration. You're going to play this a lot of times, you're going to die a lot of times, and you're going to kind of learn how they're going to be coming. There's a few extra things in this game which add in a little bit more of an element of tactics, in that every, I want to say 25 seconds or so, you get a delivery from a bot at the door. That delivery is a box. You open the box and you'll get something out of it. It might be a gun or a sword, or it could be an umbrella. It could be anything that you can either throw or you can use to shoot your enemies, or you can use to attack them in some way, giving you a little bit more tactics, because you might want to just leave that on the ground for now until you are in a position where you need to be using those special abilities. That being said, there's still not a whole lot to this game. It is, as with most of these, a horde-based, wave-based shooter.
Wave-based thrower with a little bit of shooting thrown in.
A wave-based thrower. Now, the developers call this an action defense game, but I mean, really, it's a wave-based shooter, and there's so many of them. It's really, really, really hard to find something and say, oh, you know what, this is great, this is fantastic, it does everything fresh and new. And even when they do something fresh and new, such as last week when we took a look at Shooty Fruity, which added in some extra stuff with the job simulator stuff, when you look at these, it's really difficult to say, oh, this does something super fresh and it's incredible and we should recommend it, because they just don't. This is enjoyable enough, but it's not fantastic, because it's hard to say that there's ever going to be a fantastic wave-based shooter.
Well, I think we already have one in Killing Floor Incursion, right? And anything else just really isn't quite living up to that so far. And for me, it's just a matter of seeing the same thing over and over. It makes it really hard to get excited about it. Like, for instance, I love ice cream, but if I had ice cream every single meal, I would eventually get tired of eating ice cream. And when I see just wave-based shooter after wave-based shooter in VR, it's like, oh, this is a fun experience. If this were my first VR experience, I would probably think it was awesome and it was really neat and it was great. But considering the fact that I've seen just a countless number of these now, I can no longer get excited, and instead I get a little frustrated, I get a little annoyed, and it just really makes me wish for more out of VR in general, like as a whole. Like, I wish VR was doing different stuff, and I know there's a reason for that and why the horde-based shooter is the most popular type of game in VR. But at the same time, it doesn't mean that I don't get a little bored with it, you know?
I absolutely do. Imagine how I feel having to play so many of these and knowing that every time somebody sends a new VR title, there's a 50-50 chance that it's going to say, oh, here's a new game, blah, 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 wave-based shooter. And I'm serious when I say 50%. If you go back and take a look, I guarantee you at least 50% of our games that we've reviewed in VR are wave-based shooters.
Right, and they might have little minor differences, little nuances that they can pitch it as something different, but once you actually get in the headset and you start playing the game, it doesn't take long to realize that oh it's different, all right. It you know, these monsters that come at me look different than the monsters in the other game, but that's the only difference. Like, the aesthetics are different sometimes, and thematically they feel, you know, a little more cuter than others. In reality, the core gameplay loop is the same, right? It's a horde-based shooter. You do the same thing in these games, whether it be shooting them or throwing things at them. In reality, the experience doesn't differ enough to really say, oh, this is awesome, I'm so glad this game came out. It's more like, oh, I've played this before many, many, many times.
Many, many, many times. That's really the thing. So, I did what I did in our Monday video, and I had my mother try it out.
And what was Mother's opinion?
Mother's opinion was, it's okay. She liked this a lot better than anything else she played because it was fun and easy and it had an easy core loop of just grab stuff and throw it. At the same time, she thought it was a little difficult and kind of annoying. The annoying parts were all of the NPC characters. So you've got your NPC characters that come in and you can do stuff with them. You're not supposed to save them, you're just supposed to survive. So you can literally throw them out the window and use them as ammunition against the bad guys. She kind of enjoyed that because she found the NPCs to be very annoying.
I could understand that. It's always nice in a video game to be able to do that sort of stuff, because in real life you can't just throw people you don't like out the window.
Right? So, hey, this guy's annoying and he keeps making noises, so I'm gonna throw him out the window. I think that's hilarious. That's fantastic. But if she were to play this and play any other horde-based shooter and we were to start loading her up into a bunch of horde-based shooters, would she be like, oh my, that was the incredible one? I don't think so.
Yeah, exactly. It doesn't seem like it's memorable enough or different enough for it to leave a lasting impression on me and for me to say, oh, you really need to play this one, right? Like, this isn't that game that really would stick with me. And it does fall victim to the genre that it's in, but it's also not doing anything super memorable or special to an extent that would make me really go out of my way to recommend it to someone, you know?
Right, and I think that there's a lot of room for a cool wave-based shooter or wave-based thrower in this case, and I feel like they could do a lot more, and it just feels so safe not to do that. It feels like they just don't want to do that. It feels like they should, but they don't know how. And I get it. As you said, there's an obvious reason why people continue to make these games. They're easy. They obviously sell. I don't think they sell as well as many developers believe they do, but they obviously sell. There's just not enough here that I think I can recommend it. The game is not released yet. It is coming out later on this month, on the 28th, which is Wednesday, which is a weird day to release a game in the first place. It'll be coming out for $16.99. It's also going to come out on PSVR later on in the year and Oculus Rift. So maybe on PSVR, this will see a much better reception because there aren't as many of these games on PSVR.
The PSVR library is small in general. Like, there's not a lot of games on there, period. So it could totally be the case that it will get more players there and people will actually try it out and like it, and it will receive a more positive reception on that platform. I could certainly see that being the case, but it doesn't necessarily change my original thoughts about it.
Which is kind of where we end up here. At $17 on the Vive or eventually on the Oculus, no, I can't possibly recommend it because it's just another one, and there are so many better games in the wave-based shooter genre, Killing Floor Incursion, like you mentioned, or any of the Serious Sams, which are all really, really good. So for that reason, no, I can't recommend it for that. On PSVR, once it's out on PSVR, yeah, probably, just because there aren't 50,000 other games that are just like it. This has, again, a couple of things that they try to do that are a little bit different, such as the fact that you can essentially clear out the entire room of furniture and throw it out the window. It's cathartic. It's nice to be able to throw stuff. Everybody does that when they pick up a VR headset for the first time. They put it on, they pick up things, and they throw them around. In fact, we've had some developers contact us and go, I don't understand why I didn't throw anything around. That's what everybody does. And we didn't, because I guess we're inured to it. But the fact is that that is not enough, I think, for what is essentially a $20 game. It's not enough to have just one thing in a wave-based shooter that is slightly different. Instead of shooting them, even though you do shoot them occasionally, you can throw stuff. That doesn't feel like enough of a differentiator for me to go, yes, this is it, this is the one.
I agree with what you say about people liking to throw stuff. I mean, of course, we have an entire VR game that has made a sport out of throwing and catching things, right?
With Spark, yes.
Right, and when I think about things like Spark, I say, now that is a fun way to throw and catch stuff. Which again means that I don't want to throw and catch stuff in a wave-based shooter, because I don't want to do anything in a wave-based shooter. If I want to throw stuff, if I want to catch stuff, I want to go play Spark. I like Spark because Spark is different. Spark isn't doing the same thing that other games do. Spark seemed fresh, innovative, and new, and I was like, I haven't quite seen anything like Spark yet, but when I see this, it's just like, man. It doesn't look like a bad game, I'm not saying that. Let me clarify, the game looks fine. It looks like it's well developed, everything seems to work well. This is just a result of my larger feelings about the entire genre and how things have been for the past like 2 years.
I don't feel like I really have a whole lot more to say about it, so I just won't. It's another wave-based shooter, and it doesn't do a whole lot different. I think PSVR will enjoy it because they haven't been inundated with this style of game. If you like this video, please give us a like and share it, and if you don't, then don't do either of those, but if you did, you can watch another video up there in the corner, and as always,
we'll see you guys on the next one.